getting Beatdown on Between Rounds Radio.
The longest-running mixed martial arts radio show on the planet.
All right, 3, 2.
Hey, this is Matt Serra, the former UFC champ. Take two, motherfucker.
This is Sugar Rashad Evans. You are listening to the Beatdown.
Hey, this is Nick Diaz. Hey, everybody. This is Steven Quadros. I'm the fight professor. I'm here with my partner. What's your name again? El Guapo Marrute. And we're here on Beatdown. You're absolutely right, yo.
It's time to get Beatdown. Beatdown with TJ De Santis.
Beatdown.
Exclusively on Between Rounds Radio. Between Rounds Radio. Between Rounds Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Beatdown on Between Rounds Radio. Let's call it that. It'll change though. You'll get what I'm talking about. We're going through changes like crazy right now over at Between Rounds, and technically we're quote-unquote off this week. But I'm here right now, and I'll be back with a roundtable and 2 Beatdown after the bells. So, taking vacation. Right. Some exciting things, though, to tell you about, to tease a little bit. Launching a big, brand new lineup of shows coming up next week. Everything will be free for the first week, but want to remind you that a lot of, really everything that goes into this comes from listeners like you. Patreon.com/Between Rounds. We're going to be modifying the tiers, making things a little bit different, throwing things in there that are going to make a little bit more sense for you to sign up for. Just value, a lot of value. That's really what we're trying to put together here, and I'm proud of what we got going on. And I can't let everything out in the open yet, but I can tell you that you can expect a great new show from Jeremy Horn and Monty Cox. It's called MMA Stories: The Good, the Bad, and the Bizarre. That's going to debut coming up next Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe, next Wednesday, and it's a great program. We've already got one in the bag, and we're going to be dropping that debut episode next week, and it's awesome. Horn! I've been talking with not Jeremy, another Jay, Jordan Breen. Hopefully we'll get him to confirm a date where the JBS will return. And that's really all I can let out right now. But I promise you, this week, even though we're quote-unquote off, we've got some great things coming up. Beatdown After the Bell Friday night following the Phoenix series from Invicta FC, their one-night single elimination tournament, which, I think all mixed martial arts tournaments are going to be single elimination, right? Yeah, I don't know why I said single elimination. One night, 8-woman tournament. And then on Friday, back for Beatdown After the Bell, myself and Micah Miller in studio for the UFC from Abu Dhabi, UFC 242, Khabib versus Poirier, a 155-pound title on the line, the undisputed 155-pound title on the line. Nurmagomedov, your reigning champion, as is Dustin Poirier, your interim champion. So they'll sort it out Friday from Abu Dhabi. Roundtable coming up Thursday. I believe it'll be Thursday. Recording tomorrow, which is Friday. On this program, you're going to get a 20-minute interview with Invicta FC president Shannon Knapp. Obviously, Invicta coming up on Friday. That's why I mentioned Beatdown After the Bell. We talk about the tournament series a little bit, and then also what is on deck for Invicta for the rest of the year. Jimmy Smith, Laura Sanko, they are on the call Friday night. Myself and Julie Kedzie, we will be back in the booth coming up in October and November with titles on the line. Atomweight title on the line. Flyweight title on the line. And a Strawweight title on the line. Wait, who's the Strawweight champion? No one right now. And we break some news here with Miss Shannon Knapp. We'll take a break. We'll come back. The interview with Shannon, and I'll be back to bug you after that. You're listening to Beatdown on Between Rounds Radio. It's Friday night, live on UFC Fight Pass. We see the Phoenix series the second time around as Invicta FC puts on another one-night, 8-woman tournament, this time in the 125-pound division. Please be joined now by President Shannon Knapp. Shannon, it was awesome the first time back in May with the strawweights. You move up a division. This time it's all about the flyweights. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I like going back to the roots of mixed martial arts, and what better way to do that than this tournament format?
Absolutely. I think this is the way
all tournaments should be. I think it's the most exciting, and definitely these type of tournaments with the format that we have with the Phoenix Series definitely delivers an exciting night of fights, and I think that's what it's all about.
And if people aren't aware of the format, it is a 8-woman tournament, 1 night, 3 fights for the winner. You have 2 one-round only fights in the quarterfinals and semifinals, and then a 3-round finale. One thing that I noticed the first time around back in May was the round when it's just a 1-round fight. The fight feels so different. It feels like there's a sense of urgency very, very quickly. I think that you'll still see a little bit of a feel-out process between the athletes, but it is pedal to the metal by about 30 or 45 seconds into that round. And I feel like sometimes we don't get to that point until maybe the 3rd or 4th minute of an opening round.
Absolutely true. That is kind of, that premise behind that is exactly why I kind of formulated the format like this, is to keep people engaged, because you got to pay attention. It's an exciting, the arenas, because you got 5 minutes to make your march. And you want those 5 minutes, and you want to be able to finish that opponent, because going into the semifinal, if you have the fastest finish and you finish your athlete, you get to pick who you fight next.
Right.
And as we saw with Brianna Van Buren, that strategy and everything works very well, to helping an athlete make it to the end.
And not only, I didn't realize this until it was actually unfolding before my eyes, but I didn't realize that not only do you get to pick who you fight, but you pick the rest of the matchups at that point, because you're already in the semifinals, which having that quick finish, like an advantage is not even like the proper word for it. It is definitely a big deal.
Yeah, because you really, you're dictating the pace of what happens next and the sequence. And, anytime that you can do that, it definitely gives you, the upper hand and a big advantage.
Yeah, no doubt. Last time we saw her crown a strawweight champion. This time around, you already have a flyweight champion, but the winner of this is really going to set themselves up looking pretty good at 125 pounds. Do you feel like this is something where maybe a title fight could happen for the winner?
I think that is a good possibility. I think that, case by case is what I like to always say. Right. I think that, we'll certainly evaluate, who reigns supreme in the tournament, as opposed to, on the next card, we've got contender fights lined up as well. So, it'll kind of come down to, the performances and, just how everybody looked.
Yeah, I think in mixed martial arts especially, the saying is you're only as good as your last fight, and it's definitely possible to make some things happen if you look good in 3 fights in one night. One thing that
look at Brianna.
Exactly.
She moved over to the UFC. I no sooner got that belt around her waist.
Right.
And she was off and gone. So yeah, I definitely think it's definitely. This really gives an athlete the opportunity to shine. Mm-hmm. It's theirs for the taking. They get a huge trophy, little Pride-S type like trophy from back in the day when they were larger than life, but not quite that big. But and then a nice sizable prize. So it works out very well.
Now, one thing that I've heard in the past that athletes have been worried about is being in a tournament and coming up short and losing. And one thing that I will always say about mixed martial arts is this isn't boxing. The record is a little bit different in MMA compared to other combat sports. It's not the end of the world if you come up short. And the prizes in this speak volumes to a fighter's future and trajectory. And I think that was on display with filling up this field. You didn't really have a lot of problems getting upper echelon names at 125 to do this Phoenix series. And we already see, fighters that were on the last card coming back and fighting on this card, and Victoria Leonardo. What was it like to call the athletes and propose, this opportunity to them? Were they all aboard for it pretty quick?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason Victoria moved back in, normally we wouldn't have recycled her that quickly, but we had an athlete that couldn't get cleared from a suspension on a previous fight months before. So anyway, so that's kind of how that happened. But yeah, I think that we had a lot of athletes, and actually, I know from the outside looking in, it looks like, oh, you guys did this. Everything went together perfect. But we did have some struggles on this one, but only because of the fact that we had a couple athletes that fell off that had injuries. So, so we did a lot of shuffling and replacing, but, it really turned out better than expected by far.
And I think that's the big unknown, right? Like when putting together a tournament, you can only do so much as the promoter. The athletes sort things out, but I mean, we haven't run into it yet where a winner has, not been able to continue, but these things happen. And I think that's got to be probably the most stressful part of the night. Do you even sit down and watch these fights?
Well, it depends. It definitely depends. I'd like to say no, I never do, but sometimes, you have to, of course, and you want to. Right. But that is probably one of the more uncomfortable. You're used to working, so when you do get that time to just sit, you're supposed to be sitting down and watching. I always find myself a little out of sorts, just sitting there. Yeah. Like I should be up doing something.
Well, I mean, but, when I don't know about you, but when I watch fights at home, I think I pace in my living room. I don't even sit on the couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, trust me. I know that one. It definitely depends who's fighting. But, yeah, no, there's been many a times that I'm sure my neighbors thought I was nuts because I will yell. I will scream. But I'm alone. Right. I'm watching them alone, Right. And it's usually somebody that I'm very, very invested in. So, in terms of, I probably had him as an athlete forever, consider him part of the Invicta family. And then, I certainly at that point can get very excited about it. Right. Extremely excited.
And I think the tournament really lends itself for the viewer to get invested in the athletes that are competing. And I know fight time, sometimes we only see an athlete who, comes up short in the first round. We don't get to see them very much. But the winner we see, 3 different times over the night. And it's very easy to sort of attach yourself to the storylines. Because, I mean, that's really what mixed martial arts and combat sports is all about. It's finding the characters that you like, and for some people, they live sort of vicariously through them, the person that, most represents themselves. I feel like the tournament and what you're doing here is really sort of the ultimate way for the viewer to really understand what the athletes go for, having, competing multiple times in one night.
Yeah, and I think it's fun that we get to take them, behind the scenes, backstage and show them the process of what's happening, why they are, sitting, waiting in between the rounds and things like that. And also being able to give them a glimpse of how we're taking care of our athletes in terms of, because they are fighting so many different times in the night. So I like that part that we're able to, kind of give the fans a more in-depth look at what's happening. And I think that makes it exciting. I think as a fan, I've always been a fan of the sport, and being able to see that kind of stuff and, feel like I'm right inside of all the action, that's kind of what we strive for here, is to give a glimpse of that.
Right. It's a show unlike any other right now in mixed martial arts, the Phoenix Series from Invicta FC. It is this Friday night on UFC Fight Pass. A woman tournament, one night. Go down the names real quick. Deanna Bennett is on the card. Milana Dudaeva, Maiju Suotama, Diana Torquato, Shanna Young, Liz Tracy, Victoria Leonardo, and Miranda Maverick. Really recognizable names.
What a lineup.
Seriously.
What a lineup. Yeah.
I feel like after we say all those names, we say, you pay for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge because heavy hitters here.
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then also we see Chantel Coates back on the card, and Kay Hansen, another fighter that people have come to recognize in Invicta. I'm just seeing here now, it's Kay Hansen's 7th Invicta fight. Like, that's
wow.
crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You forget. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kay is all eager. I mean, she wants to stay busy. She's always ready, and I always find that when you have athletes like that, they do tend to get into the rotation a lot quicker and more frequently.
Yeah,
she's always game.
And that's one
Sometimes
thing that
I can't keep her out.
I mean, that's the hardest part about athletes, I think, right? Like you got to try to, make them stay on a schedule. Looking at Invicta, and I've said this, from the days that Cyborg was fighting in the main event, there's not another card on the planet where you'll see the grassroots of MMA, two fighters kicking off their professional career.